there's about 100 potential investigations that the Democrats have tried to get the Republican colleagues to approve subpoenas for and have been knocked down on all of them. So I think they have a list. And I think if they're elected, the Democrats are elected, it's going to be trouble time for Trump.
Now, Ambassador Hua Liming, I wonder if you agree with me. No wonder China's been singled out repeatedly by President Trump. Whenever he has a problem at home, China would always be the scapegoat. Do you think he's created so many noise against China? He's been so hostile to China to divert attention from dozens of litigations and lawsuits at home?
I don't expect the United States is going to revert his tensions against China, because in the list of Donald Trump, China still is at the top in the priority of his foreign policy. So whatever happens in Saudi Arabia, I don't believe that Donald Trump would turn to Saudi Arabia and to neglect China.
Let me go back to Mr. Aurel, the Turkish guest speaker, for his comments on why the Persian state of Iran remains so quiet.
Because Iran knows that what happens in the region, Trump is targeting Iran with especially the Israel relations. Trump is securing Saudi administration and Turkey together, fixing together against Iran. If there is a target, like an Iran issue, and the second one is the security of Israel. All the policies seems based on this priority. The White House priority also shaped with the son-in-law. It seems like that son-in-law Kushner. So Iran and Turkey and also Russia having some common ideas and operations in Syria and also Iraq. And they don't want U.S. troops even in the borders of this region. Are they thinking to form a new state of Kurds, a satellite state supporting Israel and etc.? So this is the exact point. It's not only a criminal issue, the Khashoggi issue. Now it's a big issue, bigger issue than a political positions. I call this a geo-economic politics in these days. You know, Turkey doesn't support even Prince Salman's the new Islamic views, but never can cut the ties with the Saudi Arabia because of the every year 100,000 pilgrims are going to Mecca and Medina, the holy sites. So this will be a not easy way to choose, but first of all, Turkey will show all the evidences and this things that happened in Istanbul, and also will demand from the West, I mean both US and EU, to show the highest potential of blaming to the Saudi authorities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aurel. I'll go back to you very quickly. I'll leave you there for the moment.
There is a coalition.
Mr. Ambassador and Mr. Zordin, there are two independent investigations going on. One is conducted by Ankara under the leadership of President Erdogan. The other is headed by MBS, the Crown Prince. So there will definitely be conflicting and competing claims about the results of the investigations. Now, caught in the crossfire between the Turkish side and Riyadh, what will be the position of President Donald Trump? Privately, you may say, because of the family business ties and other concerns like arms sales, he will be very reluctant to accept the brutal results of the investigation, not quite in favor of the Crown Prince. But what do you think will happen to Donald Trump?
Whatever happens between the United States and Saudi Arabia, and I'm sure United States, Donald Trump, will keep the relation of alliance between the United States.
How important is the relationship between Washington and Riyadh?
It's a relation of 7 decades since the end of the Second War. And Saudi Arabia has been a very important guardian of U.S. interests in the Middle East. During the Cold War, it's a guardian of the U.S. interests against Soviet Union. Now is the guardian against Iran. And the oil supply, of course, the United States is no more needed than the Saudi oil, but all oil price is accounted in dollars. And this is very important for the United States. And also the image of the United States. When the United States have such kind of allies with this, not only today, from today, since the 10 years before when 9/11 happened, many Americans, they suspected that Saudi Arabia was behind the big issue of 9/11. So United States administrations, not only Donald Trump, since George Bush and Barack Obama, they were under great pressure from U.S. public opinion that Saudi Arabia might not be the best friend of the United States.
Well, China remains a friend of all member states of the 22 Arab League since the end of the Second World War. And the questions I ask are supposed to be the suspicions, the Western media present. Now, question number one, Harvey. Western reporters complain that Saudi Arabia, Western media complains that Saudi Arabia doesn't respect freedom of religion. Look at the execution of a Shiite cleric a couple of years back. And this time around, the journalist who's known for being outspoken against the royal family was allegedly killed in such a brutal way. And if revelations of the Turkish newspaper were proved correct, then I'm afraid MBS would be in serious danger and trouble.
I think
what would be the consequences?
I think he's already in trouble. I think this is a real-life case of House of Cards.
But the United States is a flagship democracy. It says it respects the freedom of the media protected by the First Amendment. But what would happen if Crown Prince remains committed to the oil dollars, committed to the exchange of intelligence reports, committed to be a guardian of U.S. interests in the Gulf? Then what would be the reactions from Washington?
Well, the reaction from Washington would be mixed. On the congressional side, the House and the Senate, there would be strong condemnation. But I believe that Trump doesn't care about the values that are in place in America prior to his presidency. I think, like I said before, he wants to take the money and run. Also, the other factor is Jared Kushner is figuratively in bed with MBS, and Trump, I think, respects his son-in-law a lot and said during the campaign that he could solve the Middle Eastern problem in 2 weeks. Well, it's taking a little bit longer than that. And also, I'm wondering, now that MBS is being called Mr. Bonesaw by many people, whether or not this is going to influence his ailing father to take out the Crown Prince and put in somebody else in place. His father is ailing. He's cut off from a lot of facts from what I know. And so it's either a do or die thing right now to make a change in the future leadership of Saudi Arabia, or to go with MBS, and that's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, our American guest speaker here is very critical of the royal family in Saudi Arabia. But let me go back to Mr. Aurel for the Turkish analysis. Now, we've been discussing the decision by President Trump eventually as to results of the investigations, two different kinds of investigations. One is led and guided by President Erdogan, the other headed by Crown Prince himself. So what do you think will be the most likely scenario for Turkish government?
For Turkish government, it seems that Turkish government will again think on the relations with Saudi Arabia. He will not deal with Prince Salman, the Turkish president, but he didn't cut the ties with King Salman. that is another point. But Turkey will show to the West that Mr. Khashoggi's killing is an organized crime, and he will show some videos and pictures. The bodyguards of Prince Salman, who are also involved to this event. So then the Western world will think and talk on this issue more clearly, because still from the Saudi
Aral,
side, and also even the Secretary of State.
Yeah, Mr. Aral, we only have 3
Yes.
minutes basically left. Let me ask you quickly, broadly speaking, what's going to happen in the Middle East? Do you think the process of the war in Yemen will be reversed? Do you think something dramatic will happen to the relationship between Tehran and Riyadh? And do you think the relationship between Ankara and Riyadh will deteriorate sharply as a result of the revelations by President Erdogan? Give me a broad picture about the Middle East, please.
This dramatic event will make all the relations worse. We can tell you that Turkish administration have an anger on Saudi Arabia, and coming from two things, both Qatar issues and also supporting to the YPG terrorists in the border of Turkey. After all, Turkey will not let Saudi and Turkey relations good as before Khashoggi event.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ambassador, what do you make of his analysis of this general picture?
I think that the Middle East would remain itself, and the most probable the scenario is that this 15 people, the rogue team, will be the scapegoat. And I've
One has been killed in a road accident.
Yes, one has been killed.
Do you think more will be killed in more road accidents?
Killed or not, they will be the scapegoat, and everything will return to the first days.
Do you think things will go back to normal despite the prosecution of the 15 or 18 guys who are alleged to have been involved?
I don't think they'll go back to normal for a long time, if ever. I think that because I believe that there'll be a power struggle going on in the House of Saud that is not determined at this point. It's a time of great instability. And I think about President Erdogan, he sees himself as a modern-day sultan. And in 2023, the 100th anniversary of the Turkish Republic, he wants to be that sultan, and I think he'll maneuver in every way to be there.
On the other hand, the European leaders have vowed to consolidate their united front in their crusade against Saudi Arabia, even before results of the investigation eventually and thoroughly emerge. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.